If you're working as a health, fitness, or a wellness professional, it's pretty likely that some clients are going to ask you questions about using probiotics. So in this video, I want to help you understand which clients should use probiotics and which should not, and for those who should, how they should go about it. Let's jump in.
TC Hale is not a doctor and does not claim to be a doctor or licensed in any type of medical field. Don't be an idiot and use anything heard on the show as medical advice. This information should be used for educational purposes only, and you should contact your doctor for any medical advice. Now get off me.
So probiotics are used to replenish this good gut flora there in our large intestine. We really shouldn't have a lot of bacteria in the small intestine or in the stomach. Most of our good bacteria should be here in the large intestine. So we're going to look at some circumstances where a client might want to take some probiotics to replenish this good gut flora, because that good gut flora can be important for a lot of functions in the body and in the digestive process. So we really want it there. So the first circumstance we want to look at is if a client has diarrhea. So if they have diarrhea, all this stuff is kind of screaming through there, and it can really wipe out that good gut flora. And a lot of people feel like this appendix right here, this little doohickey down here, is kind of used as like a starter kit. If we have some kind of diarrhea episode or some kind of situation where the body's like, get all this stuff out of here, and it kind of wipes a lot of that good gut flora out, then it's kind of left in here in this little appendix so that they can come back out and kind of replenish and repopulate that area. So a lot of people feel like that's what's going on. But we can also take probiotics to ensure that we really repopulate that population the way that it should be. So after diarrhea episode or some kind of situation like that, it can really be beneficial to have your clients, well, you ought to use some probiotics for a little bit to make sure that you're setting up that good gut flora again. Food poisoning is another similar situation. You know how you have all these bad guys come in on the food that somebody ate, and when there's all these bad guys in, well, the good gut flora there can kind of police that situation and keep it all under check. So if someone's had an episode of food poisoning, especially if it led to this diarrhea situation, then a client really should be using some probiotics to reestablish that police that we really want there to keep all the bad guys in check. After using antibiotics can also be very important. And we'll put a link to a study in the description below this video that kind of helps us understand that if somebody is using antibiotics to kind of wipe out all this bad bacteria in the body, it can also wipe out all this good bacteria in the gut as well. And now we've wiped out that police. And the study kind of helped us understand that when somebody uses antibiotics, it can really increase the odds of them then dealing with some type of yeast, mold, or fungal overgrowth issue. Because the bacteria there is often what keeps all those yeast, mold, fungal type issues in check and under control. So when you wipe those out, then sometimes people deal with those type issues. So after using antibiotics, it can be very beneficial to use some probiotics to replenish that good gut flora. Also, after any antimicrobials, maybe some people want to use a natural antimicrobial, especially when they're looking at working on an infection in the digestive tract, like maybe an H. pylori situation, or a SIBO, a small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, when there's an overgrowth of bacteria in that small intestine where we really don't want the bacteria to be. So they might use some antimicrobials to wipe these out, but still, after that use, we really want to use those probiotics. And a lot of people and a lot of studies have shown that it can be beneficial to use probiotics while you're trying to take care of those situations. I just don't really agree with that very much, just because when you're putting all this good bacteria in there, if there's a big overgrowth of a bunch of bad guys in there, you're basically going to create this huge battle between the good guys and the bad guys, and that battle can really magnify some of the symptoms that your clients are dealing with. So your clients really won't like you so much when you tell them, oh, use these probiotics, and it's going to go in and create this battle and magnification of symptoms. So we like to see people take steps to kind of wipe that situation out a little bit. If there's a SIBO or some type of overgrowth issue, or a client is dealing with significant health symptoms, like a lot of digestive symptoms like bloating and cramping and all these things that can go along when there's an overgrowth in the digestive tract, we like to see them take steps to kind of bring that down a few notches and then use probiotics. Maybe they do it towards the end of that cycle of wiping out the bad guys, or start after they're done. That way, when the probiotics go in, they're not going to magnify symptoms and really feel miserable and lousy. Another situation that probiotics can really be beneficial is if a client is dealing with leaky gut. So leaky gut, when we're looking at the intestinal lining here, these junctions should really be tight. We want those to be tight so that all these food particles and bacteria and viruses don't make it into the bloodstream. When this leaky gut situation is going on, then these junctions are wider, and now these things can get in the bloodstream, and even just food particles that shouldn't really be there. They shouldn't have gotten through there like that when they're not really broken down correctly, and the body can look at those like, oh, that must be an invader. We're going to go ahead and attack that situation. So I'm going to put a link to a study below that indicates that using probiotics really seems to have the ability to tighten up these junctions in that leaky gut situation. So that can be a beneficial time. And also if we have a client that's dealing with food sensitivity issues, a lot of times those food sensitivities can come from that leaky gut situation, so the probiotics can be beneficial in that type of situation. So when we look at the timing of this, we like to see clients take probiotics on an empty stomach. We don't want this digestive action of all these digestive acids going on when we dump the probiotics in there. You're going to fry them in that digestive acid process. So there are some strains of bacteria that seem to have the ability to get through that, but we just see that it seems to work a lot better if clients take the probiotics away from food. Maybe first thing in the morning when they wake up, or maybe just before they go to bed if it's been a few hours since they've eaten anything. But going in on an empty stomach seems to be more beneficial. Also, we like to see the client just to be dealing with maybe light digestive symptoms, not major digestive symptoms like we talked about. If they just have some slight symptoms, then putting some probiotics in there might create a little bit more discomfort at first, but it usually will get better the longer they use that. But again, we don't want major symptoms going on and really magnifying that with the big battle. And it seems that most people can benefit from using these for about 3 months. So I used to feel like, as long as this environment is really set up right, if you just use them for 3 or 4 weeks, you're really going to establish that gut flora and they will replicate and they'll thrive. But a lot of these studies are showing that people benefit more if they do it for about 3 months. So that's what we've been doing lately, and it seems to be working really well. And the last question we'll talk about is, should I use prebiotics? So prebiotics are just an ingredient in a probiotic that kind of can feed those probiotics, just like some fibers and maybe some types of sugar type things that can help feed those probiotics and help them get going and get started and really thriving. What the problem can be with that is that they go in and they feed those probiotics, but they can also feed the bad guys. So if somebody's dealing with a SIBO issue and you have a client that's having all this discomfort from SIBO, and you use prebiotics with those probiotics, then you can really magnify some of these symptoms. So again, we like to see people kind of wipe some of these bad guys out if they're dealing with symptoms that indicate that there might be some type of digestive overgrowth there. And we'll put a link to the probiotics that we use that have prebiotics in them, just so you can see what we're talking about. I'm not telling you that you should use these with your clients. I'm not saying that these are going to fix all of your clients' problems. I just know people are going to ask me, so I'll put that there so you can at least see what we're using. But we find it better if we're going to use prebiotics that we really don't want to be dealing with a major SIBO issue. We want to have taken some steps to bring that down a few notches if it seems like that may be going on. We also don't feel like people need to use probiotics indefinitely like a lot of people will say. Just using it for like 3 months to kind of set that up, and then maybe cycle them in once or twice a year from time to time, where they might use them for 2-3 weeks at a time. But I don't feel like somebody needs to use them indefinitely if this terrain is doing well. If everything is set up and there's digestive malfunctions have all been corrected, then a person can use them for about 3 months, set it up, and then those probiotics are going to thrive. That gut flora is going to do well on its own. I hope that helps.